no munu ci dëkk san nañ gan gi dëkk la ñuy war di fal dimb ak ñun fu nu bëgg a dëkke ku fa bëgg a dëkk fo nga niru lëkk golo du bay baabun di dundee rëgg dëgg san àll bee ngi daay génn njaay woote ne bëggatu fi ëkk nanu sëkk dëkk yi nu sa sërëkk ku ne ngi mbëkk di mbëkk.
I tell everybody, I like to think that I'm smart, but anytime I interact with somebody that's smart and wise, I just make them a mentor of mine and they don't have the choice. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Brian Vogt, CEO of the Denver Botanic Garden. So thank you, Brian.
Papa, thank you so much. This has been a very special week for Denver Botanic Gardens because we feel such a kinship to you and the entire ALG community. When you wander through the gardens, and I hope you'll take a little bit of time to do that during a break or after the session concludes, I hope that you'll see a celebration of life from all around the world. And we do that in plants, but we also do that in people. And we are truly hoping that the entire community will see the gardens as a second home. We are determined to get through very difficult times in a way that protects the life and dignity of everyone we work with and all of our visitors. I can't tell you how honored we are that the very first group to come and experience this brand new facility is ALG. You are wonderful friends of ours. We have learned so much from you. I really do know that we are partners in this, the job that we all have of creating a better world. I'm also absolutely stunned by the technology that has gone into this. The fact that we have this small, very dispersed group within the auditorium itself, but then we have hundreds of people out in social media, online, that are able to experience these great panels and these discussions about how to progress economically and in a community sense, and that is testament to the ingenuity and the hard work of so many people that put this together. So we celebrate you, we thank you, we are here for you. Enjoy the gardens, and I hope at least for a moment on Saturday evening we can stand 6 feet away and say hello to many more people in the community. Enjoy your time here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. And I can tell you every word he mentioned here, he means it, and you will see that on Saturday. This is home for us. And now we know we have our governor online, and I will try to read his bio, but the best way I can introduce him is he's a friend to the community. He had made his office and himself available to the community. And we are very blessed and lucky to have the highest elected official in the state of Colorado to count among our friends. And everybody knows his bio, what he has done. But for me, the best way to introduce the governor is somebody that we call a friend, somebody that we call a leader, somebody that always willing to make himself available to work and partner with us. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome our governor, Governor Jared Polis of Colorado. Thank you, Governor. We are very honored to have you. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Oh, thank you. And I want to thank you, Papadia, for inviting me to speak today. The 5th annual AFRIK Business and Economic Summit. I know this one is a little different than the previous ones, but I want to thank Papadia and Brian Vogt and Betsy Markey, who heads our Office of Economic Development, Professor Osei Asibe, and really everybody who's joining us. It's great. I get to see some of your faces, and it's wonderful to see so many great Coloradans. I think we all wish we were meeting under better circumstances. We have a dual emergency, a public health emergency, and then the economic emergency that comes out of that. Now in Colorado, we also have a third emergency, and that is 4 raging wildfires, including one that is, I think it's already now the 3rd largest in our state history, near Grand Junction. In the metro area, we mostly see this in the form of poor air quality. So you can, depending on which way the winds are blowing, it's not the best time to be outside for people who have respiratory conditions. We are a hot, dry state. Most of our state is in drought. It's one of the reasons that we're leading on climate change. We have a 250 million loan program for the state. We worked on the climate program, and very important for the African community, which has so many entrepreneurs and business people. We are very shortly launching the Energize Colorado small business grant and loan program. So this program provides up to $10,000 in grants, up to $35,000 in loans for small businesses. And we want Papadia will do a good job getting the information out and the website and all that. We'll make sure you all get that. But it is prioritizing minority immigrant-owned businesses, especially businesses that weren't able to get the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP. Maybe they were too small, maybe they didn't have a banking relationship, maybe the owners are undocumented, whatever it was. We want to make sure those businesses go to the front of the line to get the $10,000 to $35,000 piece from the state. And then when there's some left, businesses that did get PPP will also be able to get some of that. So we really want to partner with you, the African community, with Papadia. There are so many small businesses owned by African immigrants, and we want to make sure that they're able to get through this and be ready for growth in the future. And I'm really excited about those opportunities. Our Office of Economic Development and Trade has a minority business office that will help facilitate these programs. The Energize program is for companies that have less than 25 employees. And I think I said 10,000 in funding. It actually goes up to 15,000 in funding. That was a mistake. So 15,000 in grants, 20,000 in loans if they want them. So that's up to 35,000 for a small business, which can be life-saving. EnergizeColorado.com is the website. As I said, Papadia and others will get the information out when that's available. And Ulysses Fernandez with the Minority Business Office is on this call. I think he might be talking later. We also have nonprofit help, Colorado COVIDrelief.org and helpcoloradonow.org. We've raised over $25 million to give out to community-based nonprofits, including nonprofits that serve the African immigrant community. We've gotten those out the door. I think those grants are up to $25,000, so we've helped community organizations across the state. Hopefully, many of the ones that are directly impacting and helping the African immigrant community get through this difficult time. Now, on to some more exciting and brighter news. We want to honor all of our African immigrants in Colorado in African Immigrant Month, and I am issuing a formal proclamation. So, whereas during African Immigrant Month, we celebrate our collective accomplishments, annually highlight our community champions, underscore the importance of civic engagement, and whereas during African Immigrant Month, we showcase the positive contributions of African people in Colorado, whereas we seek to honor the African community's positive impact across Colorado and celebrate the diversity that they contribute to our state and within our local communities, whereas during the month of August, we recognize the value African immigrants add to Colorado's cultural and economic strength. Therefore, I, Jared Polis, Governor of the state of Colorado, do hereby proclaim the month of August 2020 as African Immigrant Month. So congratulations to everybody.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, one final point, Pop-Up, Dia. I think really every month is African Immigrant Month in Colorado. We celebrate our African immigrants all 12 months of the year. So we're excited to highlight this in August, but we're not going to forget it in September or October or November or February or March. We really want to make sure that every month of the year, we are the very best state for African immigrants, and that's my commitment to you. So I'll turn it back over to you, and thank you for the time.
Thank you so much, Governor. And with your leadership, we feel at home, we feel welcome. And great point when you know every month is African Immigrant Month when it comes to the state of Colorado, because this place, we call it home. We really want to thank you for your leadership and everything you've done and continue to do for our community. One message I have out there, you hear the governor mention about the grant program and the loan program that they put together for immigrants. Please, please get involved, make sure you have access to it. And the business committee at the African Leadership Group will make sure to have those information available. Please, community members, audience, help me again thank the governor for his word and making himself available. Thank you so much, Governor. Thank you. Now, And I'll get to the next, and we're about to kick off the program here shortly, and I'll be introducing the moderator of the panel that we have. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome a friend, a mentor, Solomon Mwanga, Chair of the African Leadership Group Business Economic Committee. Thank you so much, Solomon, for your leadership.
Again, Papa is a fearless leader. He's provided us a platform to contribute and give back to this community. And like Papa mentioned, my name is Solomon Mwanga, commercial banker, vice president with Midwest One Bank. And I'm proud to serve the community and the African community in Colorado as the chair of the Business Economic Opportunity Committee. So first, I'll kick it off real quick by reemphasizing the goal of the community, the committee is to provide a vehicle to accomplish some of the goals of the African Leadership Group. The mission is to help, the mission of the African Leadership Group is to help the African diaspora integrate and prosper by connecting cultures, developing strong community leaders, and advocating for economic, social, and educational impact. Our task as the Business and Economic Opportunities Committee, or BEOP, is to ensure that LLG meets its economic impact goals. Therefore, our goal is to make sure we put members of our community in a position where they can identify opportunities, win markets, create jobs, and be thriving business owners so that they can better themselves, our community, and the state of Colorado at large. So we achieve this goal by several different ways. The main three ways are: we hold quarterly workshops and events, we do leadership development, and Papa's not had a chance to talk about it, but we have Leadership Africa that LG runs. We also identify different partnerships and sponsorship opportunities. So before I move forward with our panel and panelist topics, let me introduce some of the members of the current serving committee members. I cannot do this important work by myself. I have about 6 members on my committee. We always welcome more talent if you're interested. We have Taiyo Okwande. Taiyo is going to be one of the panelists, so you get a chance to meet him and talk to him a little bit more. We have Lee Turker, another banker. We have Maricela Paraquez. We have Rosie McDonald. And Papa Dia, an honorary member. Then we have Jamal Bowen. I would be amiss not to mention that we're supported by the highly talented LG staff of Lori and Amadou Deng, Lori Cooley and Amadou Deng, so I just want to thank them. So without much further ado, let me launch into the topic for this morning. Africa Impact Week, the theme is the value in our common voice. Within this theme, we built the sub-theme for the business event today, and it's how to build a sustainable, winning, and competitive business culture during and after COVID-19. So first, we're going to kick this off with a panel discussion along 2 topics within this theme. The first topic will be business planning, agility, and winning markets. And then the next topic within that panel is the importance of training as part of business planning in order to acquire new skills in driving business development and growth. So allow me to introduce our panelists. I'll start with Taiyo here on my immediate right. Taiyo Kwande is a business and employment attorney with Kwande LLP. He's an experienced attorney who handles litigation and business matters for clients across several industries. Taiyo counsels clients on business contract matters, including but not limited to employment contracts, employee handbooks, severance and separation agreements, operating agreements, and other business-related agreements. Taiyo graduated from the University of Denver Stern College of Law and started his legal career as a hearing officer at the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment, where he presided over unemployment benefits appeals hearings. He also worked as an attorney in the Denver office of a national law firm. Please join me in welcoming Taiyo Kwande. Next is Bill Turker. Bill is a CPA with Hanson and Company, where he provides tax planning and compliance accounting solutions and consulting services to Denver area companies. Bill blends his years of experience and technical knowledge to translate numbers into understandable activities. He also previously worked as a controller for specialty medical practice, which included full oversight of financial and management accounting, asset acquisition, and liabilities. He started his career working in the tax department of PricewaterhouseCoopers. Bill earned a Bachelor of Science in Political Science degree from the University of Colorado at Boulder, and then attended the University of Louisville in Louisville, Kentucky. He's a member of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, the Colorado Society of CPAs, Healthcare Financial Management Association, and the Medical Group Management Association. Welcome, Bill. Last but certainly not least, our panelist under this topic is Maria Oxman. Maria is an associate in the Finance and Acquisition Department at Davis, Graham, and Stubbs. Her focus is the practice of real estate law, and she regularly works with investors, developers, and large companies in a variety of real estate matters, including leasing, hospitality, and development. She also handles the real estate aspects of complex mergers and acquisition transactions. Maria holds 2 law degrees and is licensed to practice law in Colorado and Guatemala. While earning her JD at the University of Denver Stern College of Law, she interned at the Colorado Supreme Court and the Office of the Colorado State Public Defender. Maria serves as a member of the Board of Directors of MAIA. Additionally, she's a current member of the National Hispanic Bar Association. Welcome, Maria. Thank you very much to our panelists for joining us. So I'm going to kick this off with discussing some points. I'm going to start off with Taiyo. So Taiyo, could you start us off by giving us some highlights on new updates businesses should be familiar with regarding employment laws, especially in context of the impact of COVID-19?
Yes, thank you, Solomon. As you may all be aware, it's been a very active legislative session, both federally and in Colorado. So I'm just going to go over certain legislation and just in a very overview of some of them, starting with the initial legislation that was passed in March 18 of 2020, the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, which is the FFCRA, also referred to as that. And that's the one that provides or legislates the provision by employers to provide up to 12 weeks of paid leave and 80 hours of sick leave for employees, dealing with the impact of the pandemic. Along with that, there's a couple other legislation or guidance that I also want to touch on that relates to our companies or companies in Colorado. One is a new guidance that was just issued by the EEOC, essentially relating to the use of opioids. Essentially, it's still illegal for an employee to use substances that are banned federally. However, if an employee is using opioid legally pursuant to a prescription, an employer may not take adverse action against that employee unless they first consider whether there can be a reasonable accommodation. So these are some of the laws that are impacting companies, or that will be impacting companies on that. One more on the federal side is the amendment to the Fair Labor Standards Act, which took effect January of this year. And that was the one that increased the minimum annual salary for most exempt employees from $455 per week to $684 per week. And that became effective July of this year.
Bill, I wanted to know, talking about all these, the PPP program has been mentioned several times on both panels as one of the resources that came out. But the phase that we're in right now with the PPP is the much awaited forgiveness part. That's what most businesses are clamoring for. And it's been lumpy, to say the best. Could you talk about some of the rules that the businesses have to be aware of?
Thanks, Solomon. I really appreciate being here and having the invitation to be here. The rules are complex, and I don't want to take a lot of time today to go dive into the weeds. So let me give a couple of contact. Can I give my email and office number for people to call?
Absolutely, we'll be sure that.
Anything I talk about here today, or if you have additional questions, I'm happy to offer a point of view. You can touch base with me at my company at 303-388-1010, or you can email me at wtucker@hanson-cpa.com. That's HANSON-CPA.com. I'm happy to talk with you or to address questions that might come up. The PPP program application phase ended just recently on the 8th, so now we're into forgiveness. And I have a lot of questions that come up. Should I do it now? When should I do it? What does it mean? What are the rules? And overall, my answer is wait. We don't have to apply for forgiveness right now. We have 10 months after the end of the period, and then there's another 2 months for the banks to decide, another 3 months for the SBA to decide. We could literally be in 2022 before any decision is made whether you have to repay the loan or not. So that's the short answer. The more difficult answer is, did you have a change in employees, and did you have a change in the wages that you paid them? And so there are different testing periods, but for the most part, what we're looking at is, do you have the same head count before the act was passed? And this is all from the CARES Act, which was passed on the 27th of March. Do you have more employees or fewer employees than at that time? If you have more employees, you're fine. Your loan is going to be not going to be reduced, or forgiveness is not going to be reduced for head count. But then you have to look at, am I paying my people less? And there are some safe harbors for both the head count and for the amount that you pay them. And those safe harbors are very wide. But we don't have to worry about that at this point. Pardon me, this mask is really in the middle of things. The provisions of the act and of the program itself are to spend 60% of the money that you get from the loan on payroll. The other 40% can be spent on various types of interest and rent and utilities. The 60% spent on payroll also includes payroll benefits. And if you end up spending 100% of the amount on payroll, super. We don't have any problem at all. That is the basic part of where we are with the PPP forgiveness program. There are a lot of specific pieces and dates and testing periods that I'm happy to address those as the questions may come up. There's another program called the EIDL, that's the Emergency Economic Injury Disaster Loan. That's applied, still there are funds, and that's applied directly from the SBA on the SBA.gov site. And it's a very simple process. The test is based on what is your income from the prior year, and that is primarily focused on small businesses and entrepreneurs and those folks that file what's called a Schedule C. That is, they have such a small business that they don't have a separate entity or corporation or a partnership that is set up. They have an LLC perhaps, and they're the only owner. This really supports, it's a program that supports small, even micro businesses, if you think about that. It's directly through the SBA. The repayment period is 30 years at 3.75%, which is nearly free money. Gives you a lot of flexibility. The amount that you can borrow is up to $150,000. Anything at $25,000 or less on the loan, you don't have to have a personal guarantee or pledge assets. So it's a pretty wide open opportunity to bring some fresh funds into your business, to keep it going, to expand it if that's what you want to do within limits for the EIDL. Mostly it's to maintain where you are now rather than to open new storefront for, let's say. The process could take a couple of weeks, but the money will go right into your account as soon as it's approved, and the approval rate is very high. Those are the two major programs that are currently percolating. There are plenty more rumors that are being talked about of an expansion of the PPP loans or expansion of new grants and other money that doesn't have to be repaid. But we depend on Congress to come through with additional changes for the PPP program. Congress came through and the administration came through, and they've changed it at least 24 different times. So we are receiving every other day new pronouncements and new visions about what the program will look like and how it ends up. The rumors that we hear about from time to time of new loans, of new programs, of new grants are just speculation. They are dependent on Congress coming together and the president signing a law, and it's a hopeful situation, but we know we only have a couple of months before a big election, and politicians don't like to make very many major moves at this time, unfortunately.
Thank you so much, Bill. Appreciate it. I want to take this, and Maria's expertise is tenant-landlord relationships and real estate. So I'm going to ask her to just tell us some of the challenges that have been faced by business tenants that were unable to pay rent due to closing or reduced capacity, and then talk about, if businesses close permanently, what recommendations she could provide on how to terminate their lease. So she can talk about several different details under that topic.
Thank you, Solomon, and thank you everyone for having me here. So I think we have to step back. I know a number of small businesses are having issues with their leases. So if you step back, you have to sit down and decide, is my business going to be successful after COVID, or am I going to unfortunately have to close my business, and therefore my goal is to walk out of my lease? Once you have figured that out, which you should figure out sooner rather than later, you should definitely, and if you take one thing out of this 10 minutes, is talk to your landlord. Don't wait until you receive a notice of eviction. Don't wait until you receive a termination of your lease and asking for damages. Just talk to your landlord, and remember, landlords can also be small businesses themselves. So if you are in that category, talk to your tenant as well. So then if we back up, like I said, let's say your determination is that you are unfortunately having to close your business. So there are several things to think under this scenario. You can either try to negotiate a buyout or a termination of the lease. So you basically reach out to your landlord and say, look, I'm not gonna make it. Can we negotiate an amount that you would feel comfortable with, or some sort of payment plan if I walk away from my lease? To be clear, you are still under obligations under your lease, so potentially you could be on the hook for the money that you would have paid on rent for the remainder of the lease. That said, there is something in Colorado called the duty to mitigate. So the landlord, what that means is that the landlord cannot just sit on this property and try and just do anything about it. The landlord is under an obligation to use commercially reasonable efforts to try to lease this space to another tenant. That said, under the current climate, a landlord could potentially be making reasonable efforts to try to lease this space and not find any substitute tenant for some time, or if they do, they might find someone who's willing to only pay a lesser amount of rent. So that is one possibility. Some other folks have tried to go the route of litigation. I do not practice litigation, but I think it is still a little unclear how the courts are going to react to some theories like impossibility of contract or impracticability. I just don't know how the courts are going to react to those arguments. Another option is try to assign or sublet your space. Assign the lease or sublet your space. That is really, you have to look into your contract and see if you're even allowed to do that. And if so, there may be some requirements, you may need to ask for landlord consent. And this is really dependent on how the lease reads. The landlord may say you may have the right to withhold their consent at their sole discretion, or there may be a certain amount of factors that they have to consider and act reasonably. So you have to take those into account. So those are the scenario of like, I think I'm going to close my business.
Quick comment from Taiyo.
Thank you, Solomon. So, and again, just to go along with what Maria said, that the ALG also has a legal clinic, which is, you can find on their website, usalg.org, I believe, or .com. Is it .org? Right. usalg.org. If you have any questions from any legal issue perspective, certainly make sure that you visit that as well. And we have access to refer you to coloradorelief.org if that's your question. And there's clinics that are held once every month. It's the third Monday of every month. So if you're able to attend that we can answer your questions as well. Thank you.
Excellent.
Well, let's give Solomon a round of applause for moderating all this expertise, and really wanting to thank all our panelists and contribution. And at this time, the message I have is more like for the community, and I want you to really hear me very well. Because from the governor to our keynote speaker to our panelists, I think you have heard it all. You heard the governor say there's money and resources available to us. In fact, there's a $15,000 grant available to small business owners. It's a grant. On top of that, they can add another loan if you need it. And you have all the expertise you need from attorneys, CPA, bankers. What else are we waiting for? I guess that's the question we should ask ourselves. There's no reason every single business owner in our community should be struggling. I don't see it. And you have heard from our young entrepreneur Miriam that asked us question that the Office of Minority is looking to put together resources. And we have heard some question that even though the Bessie's office did not have that, but they're considering putting a platform where all the resources would be put together. I think they've heard us all, and they're willing to implement some of the things that we ask. Now, we have a very dynamic business committee led by Solomon Mwanga. If you have an issue, don't know where to go to usalg.org. You will find the information. And if you reach out to Solomon and his team, they will definitely guide you through this process. I strongly believe that the development for every single nation goes through small business owners and young entrepreneurs. So thank you, it was amazing. So we are day 2, and we have day 3 left, which is going to be more like the big celebration, which is the community evening of healing.